Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Commander Social. I'm Ryan Green.
And I'm Zach Taylor. And we're joined today by PJ from Commander Replay. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? Happy to be here. I'm excited that we're finally able to do this. We've been trying to do one of these for a little while.
Yeah, indeed. And PJ, tell the folks at home like where they would know you from and how they can check out your stuff.
They may know me from the YouTubes, youtube.com/Commander Replay. I do condensed Magic Online gameplay for Commander. Games usually take about 20 to 30 minutes, and you guys can check that out there.
All right. And the folks at home should know that PJ, we actually know each other. We go to the same local game store, the Mothership, right? So
Shout out to the Mothership.
Yeah, so it's so cool that we're actually finally making this happen. And so this week we are going to talk to you about creating content because we're doing this as part of the Commander Creator reunion. So that's what we're doing. Yeah. So thank you to everyone out there who's watching on stream right now.
Yep.
And to the folks that are going to be listening to this audio later, you should go check out the VODs from that. Because I've been having such a good time. And PJ and I just played a game with some folks before this that it was really, really fun. So, yeah. All right. And we want to thank the audience, right? Both the live audience and the folks that are listening to this later. Thank you so much for your support, especially during these hard times. Yeah. It really, really just makes it worth doing. And we're going to talk about some of that when we get into the why to create content later. But we want to thank our patrons, right? And for this month, we have a patron contest going on, and you get to possibly win a Chandra spellbook, right? And all you have to do is make your own themed Jumpstart booster pack, right? So you just send us like an image. A lot of people have been going out to like Architect and then making like their 20 cards and then taking a screenshot of it and posting it. So you can do that. And then also we're doing the same contest on Twitter, right, Zach?
Yep. Same contest. You got to do your Jumpstart, send us a screenshot, and you'll be entered in to win 2 Jumpstart boosters. So Ryan, where can they find you on Twitter?
Well, individually on Twitter, I'm at Green Geek.
And I'm at Z4CK38, and together we're at Commander Social.
Sweet. All right, that's all the needful. Or almost all the needful. We are hosting a historic Brawl tournament, and it's going to start at the end of this month. And then actually, as of recording this right now, I think there's like 5 more days to sign up. And you could win $100 gift card to Mothership, and they have an online store, right? You can buy singles with that. You could buy sealed product. You can buy like all kinds of stuff. So it's going to happen on Arena. It's going to take course. It's going to happen over the course of a week or so. Basically, every time you get paired against somebody, you have 24 hours to find a time with that person and record your match, and it'll usually be double elimination. So hope to see some folks out there. Of course, we're recording this during the day. I'm sorry, there may be some screaming children
all good
in the background. But I also wanted to say that the entry fee for this tournament is donating $20 to charity. That is the whole idea. We want to just raise some money for charity. Yep. So hopefully the folks out there in Twitch and also the folks listening to this at home can donate some money and maybe possibly win some magic cards. It'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's most of the needful. So PJ, we do a segment where we just ask what's going on in your life, right? You kind of get the microphone, say what's up for a little bit. Tell the folks at home what's going on.
Oh man, my personal life. I thought we were gonna wait on the hard questions.
You live in a bunker, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So Austin's been pretty bad for COVID. So I've been trying to do as little as possible outside and really just kind of being a hermit. So I started playing some Diablo 2 again. Pretty exciting stuff. 2. Yeah, super old school, right?
Yeah, that's sweet.
So been doing a little bit of that, but other than that, just trying to stay safe from the virus and stuff like that. So what about you guys?
Yeah, Zach, what's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. Trying to think, what am I doing? Oh, I started writing a book. There are words in it. They don't rhyme.
You can read?
Yeah, I know. It's surprising that the people that can read. I actually majored in creative writing, so I was thinking about doing National Novel Writing Month, and someone was like, well, why don't you just start now? And I was like, that's a good idea. In the COVID dome, I do spend a lot of time where I could be writing. So I started it. Ryan's read some of it. He liked it, or he told me he liked it.
Yeah. I did like it, but I also told you I liked it. It's both.
You did, and you gave me some good notes, I thought. But I have two things, Ryan.
Okay.
Are you here for the second thing?
Sure.
I was telling PJ about it a little bit earlier, but my mom gave me her father's record cabinet, like an old school Madman one, like you like lift up the lid and you put your record in and play, and I think it's loud, man. I'm real impressed with it. It's been pretty fun to play with. But what's been going on in your life, dude?
Oh, wait, that was the second thing. Okay, so writing the book was the first thing. The second thing, well, let's acknowledge the music player. I actually did see your tweet about that, and yeah, that was super loud. And yeah, like I don't know, it looks pretty sweet. Where is it in the apartment?
It's
because you gave us the virtual tour. I want to envision it in my mind's eye since I can't come over and see it.
It's at the back wall of the kitchen, beside the where the patio door is, and then the kitchen table's right in front of it. So it's like parallel to my couch. So now I have it's like a couch, a little table that sits up against the back of the couch for displaying curios and whatnot. And then
be they Cloudstone or otherwise,
right?
I suppose.
Then it's the table, and then the record deck. It also has a radio in it too, but I don't know anything about the radio, so I'm just listening to records.
Yeah, and you actually have a pretty decent record collection, right?
Yeah. No, I have like two, three. I have a pretty
massive. It's a huge record collection.
I'm so proud of it. It's taken me all this time to get it together. No, I definitely am excited to listen to that Dr. Octagon record and see how that bumps that Kelly gave me for my birthday.
My friend used to talk about them all the time way back in the day. I didn't know they were like still a thing. That
half shark, alligator, half man, half man, half shark. All right.
I mean, that's the thing in Magic now, right? So,
I mean, there was a whale wolf last game. I'm just saying that is the thing that happened. All right. So it's time for your hashtag MTG Dad moment of the week, and this one is about my kids in the inflatable pool in the backyard. We were all just kind of hanging out as a family this last weekend, and my kids decided they wanted to jump into the pool. And I said, that's called a cannonball, and you have to yell cannonball before you do it, right? And so then both of my children are just like jumping cannonball, and it's like 2 feet of water or less, there's not much water. And then my son decided to do it outside of the pool.
Oh, wow. Ouch.
Oh man, it was he definitely had some bruises, but he just got back up and did it again in the pool. Nothing phases that little guy.
It seems to hurt less when I do it in the water.
Learning
Gotta
about
test
physics.
this out for science.
But yeah. So that's your hashtag MTG Dad moment, and that's gonna bring us into a segment we do every week. Zach,
I want to thank Mike Condon for the audio engineering. He's our secret partner or silent partner. He's both.
And secret. I mean, we
both.
talk about it every episode, but it's a secret.
It's a secret.
It's the best secret in the business.
Right? Get you a Mike Condon. But he's also a good friend, and he's great to talk to. We got a chance to talk to him earlier this week, and that was great. And, aside from all that other stuff, I definitely want to thank him for the record cleaning spray that he sent me. He knew I was getting that record cabinet, so he sent me some record cleaning spray.
Is that a real thing?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Because I was like, I have never heard of this, but I also don't do the whole record thing. So
yeah.
Ask Kelly.
Hey. So the joke is normally when we're recording, my family is asleep. So there's but anyway, okay. So let's quickly hit up the mothership. Tell the folks at home they can go to store.mothership.atx.com. They have an online presence, so if you want to support our local game store, or you don't have a local game store of your own, please support them. You can use Social Ship in all caps to get free shipping on orders of $50 or more, and Social 10 in all caps to get 10% off of in-stock MTG singles. And you can see them Thursday night in the Discord. There's a link in the show notes. They do EDH night. PJ, have you gone to the Thursday night EDH nights?
Oh yeah, I used to play all the time back before social contact stopped happening.
Have you been to the virtual night?
No, the virtual one? No, I haven't actually. I didn't know they were even doing virtual. So
yep.
Yeah, if you go check out the Discord, you can. Oh man, Infinity Tokens in the chat is saying to support your local game store, and we do try. Okay, okay. So enough of all of that stuff. It is time to get into the meat here, right?
What about the potatoes?
I mean, the potatoes are coming later. We got to do the meat first, right? So we're going to talk about creating content, right? That's what the folks here on the Twitch stream are here for. And hopefully we're going to stick around after we're done, like we close out the episode and stop the recording. We're going to stick around in Twitch to answer some questions from folks in chat if they want to stick around. So please do that if you're interested. And so I wanted to pass it over to you, PJ, because I know that sometimes it feels bad, like you're here and it's like, oh, they're doing all the business and what do we do? But
it's your turn to talk, PJ. It's your turn.
Yeah. I want to know like what kind of content you create and like tell folks at home about it. You know, we said it's condensed commander, but like what does that mean? Like you record the games and then do you do voiceovers? Like I want to hear like a whole spiel.
Sure. And why should we check it out? The notes.
Yeah. So I do condensed gameplay and I film the game live, and then I basically just cut out all the dead space where people are thinking and doing stuff, tapping lands. And these are all Magic Online games. And that'll leave you with a game that's about 20 to 30 minutes typically. So you can get your commander fix in a relatively short period of time. Not the usual, like they take about 90 minutes to film typically. So, you know, there's kind of a lot of dead space in that time. You cut it all down, you get a nice 20-minute game, and you get your commander fix nice and quick. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing some other stuff too, where I've just been kind of doing like more deck building theory type videos and, you know, just kind of talking about stuff. You know, like I did a video called, as cliche as it is, because everyone's doing these now, was like 10 underrated red cards. And, you know, some cards that like I really, really like that I've been playing. Volcanic Offering is.
Oh, I love that card.
I know. It's just so good. It makes me so happy. Treasure Nabber, I think, is another one that people probably need to play a little bit more of. So I do mainly gameplay, and then I'll do a little bit of just kind of like other stuff, deck building theory and stuff like that. What I'm starting to do now, I'm starting up live streaming, and planning to do that about once a week. We'll, you know, just kind of get it going, kind of get set up, because I'm still not super comfortable with live streaming. Just like I'm sure I got to get things made and all kinds of like graphics and things like that I got to figure out. So, you know, it's new to me, but gonna be doing that, so I'm excited about that.
Sweet.
Oh, very cool. And you play mostly on Magic Online, right?
Yeah, typically with the virus I've been doing some paper stuff, doing webcam things. So, you know, I'm doing a little bit of that content, but mostly Magic Online still.
Okay, very cool. So that's kind of like what you do. And again, like, you know, the streaming thing is it's different, right? Like we're doing it right now, and it's different,
right? Yeah.
It just is. But it's fun and it's interesting too. And we've done it a couple of times. Oh, am I muted?
No,
can you guys hear me?
Hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Something popped up. Oh, it was a button to tell me to mute. Very cool.
Well, I'm not going to use that button. Yeah. If you press it, you'll be muted.
Don't let the man keep you down, Ryan. Don't let the man keep you down.
So I kind of wanted to talk about the process of creating content, right? And kind of like pass it around roundtable style and just say, like, you know, kind of like, what do you like the most about creating content? What do you like the least? And so Zach, I kind of want to get your thoughts on it, right? So what do you like the most?
The thing that I like the most, I mean, I think this one is going to be a universal one for all of us probably. So I'm going to list this and then my second favorite thing. But the thing I like the most is being able to interact with the community and have that family that we've
got it in one. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think that's going to all be our number one. But I think the second thing for me is it's a really big creative outlet for me. I do, you know, all the graphic design. I do the video stuff. You know, I help with the show notes. And at the end of the day, it fulfills me personally, or creatively rather, to have this show, you know, whether it be audio or video, that you know, is something I put all my heart into, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah, and it shows, right? I mean, I feel like I feel like you do so much, and maybe the people at home don't know about it, and it's such a crazy endeavor to do it with another person. So PJ, why don't you go next?
So obviously I love interacting with people. So, you know, we kind of talked about that a little bit, but I think the thing that like I really like, because I do this full time, and like when you do this full time, there's still days where you just like don't want to get out of bed. But the thing that kind of drives me to get out of bed is I kind of like telling these little stories. Like every Commander game is this sort of like little story of like all these little decisions that happen. Like, I don't know, I was playing a game yesterday where I tried a mana doubler, someone shot my mana doubler, someone tried a mana doubler after me, and theirs got the stick. Like just these like little things that like, well, now they're doing crazy stuff and I'm not because of this one little decision that someone else made. And I don't know. I kind of like that whole storytelling aspect. I get to talk about different things, especially when I'm doing like non-gameplay videos, focusing in on like cards that I don't think people are evaluating properly that could be used more or maybe being overused, whatever the case is. So, I kind of just like being a storyteller. And like when people ask what I do, I tell them that I'm like a baseball commentator for Magic games. Like I just call the game.
That's a good description.
Yeah. So that's like the thing that I probably like the most. What about you?
Yeah, well, I also wanted to say, like, that's one of the big differences, right? Is like you do this like full time, and like I'm sure that kind of theme is going to come up again because, I know we have some questions about like how much time do you spend creating content and stuff, and I know that the folks at home are probably thinking about that as well. But yeah, as far as me, it really is the people like that's the very number one thing. If it's not that, I think it's about doing a thing for my kids, which I'll talk about that in a little bit later when we get into the why of it. But that like being able to like provide something for them that they can go back and see is a big deal for me. And like Zach said, it is a creative outlet as well, right? And I'm passionate about Magic. I love Magic. It's fantastic. It's such a great game, and getting to have this place where we can like talk about it and figure things out and be a part of the community, it's wonderful. So okay, so what do we like least about creating content? And we don't typically go super negative on this show, but there are times when creating content is difficult. It's kind of like what you said earlier, PJ, where it's like, man, like you got to keep going. Because that's one of the things we're going to hit later in the episode, which is like being consistent. But there are times when you're like, man, I had a really rough week and I want to just like relax and chill out. But you're like, no, I got to do this thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what I like least. But I'll pass it over to you, PJ.
So, I think what you're saying is being consistent. Like being consistent has always been a really difficult thing for me. Like I'm one of those guys that like I'll throw myself at something really hard for like a short period of time and then I'm done. Content creation is like the opposite of that. Like the thing you want is not that. You want just like steady, smooth consistency. If you're doing one video a week or one podcast a week, you want to stay on one podcast a week. And so that's a thing. One of the things that like editing I don't care for. Like it's fine, but I've now edited over like 500 videos or some absurd number, and I'm just like, I don't want to edit anymore. I'm so tired of editing.
But after that many videos, aren't you like the best at it now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty good at it, but I just like don't like doing it. Like you're doing it and your mind wanders off to different places. You're like, oh man. So I've been looking at like hiring different editors and things like that, and seeing like how much of my work I can offload to do that, because like editing kind of takes you away from like actual gameplay, testing out new cards, and you know what I mean? Like you're spending a lot of time that's like not you playing the game. It's you just, doing channel stuff and making everything else work. One of the things that I worried about is when you get to a certain level of content creator, and I'm not there yet. And the thing that I worry about is that when you get to when you're on top of a pedestal of some kind, people always want to knock you off of it. And that's a thing that I'm worried about. Like I've got a ways to go before I get there, but I see it happening to other people and I'm like, ugh, that doesn't look like so much fun. And that's one of the things that like I'm a little nervous about. So.
I mean, if you keep championing Boros, dude, and you get up on a pedestal, I'm lunging for you. I'm just full on lunging.
I mean, I was gonna say that's why we're not aiming to get to that pedestal.
Yeah,
like,
If we could chill just right under that pedestal.
No, there's something really cool about being like, the third or fourth biggest guy, where you're like, you're not, you know what I mean? Like people are focused on the guy at the top, not so much on you. And that's a thing. So like, there's definitely like a comfortable level of success without having, being the biggest and the best and all this sort of stuff. There's headaches that come with being the biggest. So just something that's been on my mind lately. What about you?
I think for me, I mean, I agree with you completely on the consistency, right? You need to be consistent as a content creator, and life happens. And I spend, probably out of 7 days a week, at least 4 nights working on some podcast stuff. We'll get into that kind of stuff later. But, if like something happens or I've got to do something else or I want to do something else, right? Maybe not right now, but I want to go to dinner with my friends or whatever. It's like, well, that means that's stress to get it done more. And that is something that I don't care for, just because it's like, I care enough to do it, but if I could change it, like if I could get rid of this aspect, I would somehow, if that makes sense. Like, it's just
you have to make a sacrifice. Like you have to sacrifice
exactly.
some amount of time to be able to make content.
Right. And it's not always like the time that you want to sacrifice, right? Like, but yeah, like I don't really have too many complaints other than that, really.
Okay. All right. So let's switch over to talk about like why we all got into doing this, because as we've kind of alluded to, it's very much a choice, and like it's not an easy one either. So PJ, since you're our guest, tell the folks at home like why you started creating content.
Yeah, like I don't know, it's the weirdest mixture of things. I had enough free time at the point in time when I started, which I think was like early 2017. I think that's when I started. It's been a few years now. And I was watching a couple channels. So like I was working full time at that point, and I was listening to a lot of Saffron Olive. There was another channel that I saw. I think it was called Commander and Conqueror. They haven't produced content in a number of years now, but I saw they just did like a gameplay video, and they had an actual replay from Magic Online, and they would kind of just narrate over it. And I'm like, I can do that. And I think I can do it a little bit better. And it should only take like 20 or 30 minutes. And then, you get into content creation and you find out like it takes like 4 hours. But
oh yeah.
I saw those and I'm like, I can do that. I play a lot of Magic. And so that was one of the main things I started. I'm like, you know what? It would be really cool if I could get like $20 a month just to like go buy some cards. Cause like, cards are a legit expense when money's tight. So those are kind of the main things that got me going, is like, I think I can do that. And, here we are.
Yeah. In 2017, $20 was you get some good singles. Now you're probably spending like $100. It's like, can I get $100, $150?
Don't spend it all in one place, kid.
Right. It's like, ooh, I got one shiny new card. It's shiny.
Yep.
So what about you, Zach?
There are a number of reasons. I think the first one really speaks to our friendship, but it wasn't, when you asked me to be on the podcast, it was like an opportunity for us to do something together, right? Like you and I have always had a very good rapport as friends, and we both love Magic just like so much. And I was like, yeah, like let's do this. That's one of the reasons I did it. I definitely started off being like, I was like kind of like PJ, Ryan asked me, and I was like, okay, so I'm doing some research on podcasts. And I'm like, I see this little show called Command Zone, and I'm watching it, and there's these two guys, and I'm like, yeah, I could probably, Ryan and I could do better than that. We could do way better than that.
How's that going for you?
Here we are in the Content Creator Reunion 2020, closing it out. So I feel like we're getting there. We're not at the Command Zone pedestal yet, but we're like almost there.
Man, their production value, man, that's going to be tough to match.
Oh yeah, no, I still watch it every week, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
I'm a fan,
Yeah, it's very good. But that's another reason why I do it actually, is because I see other content out there, video wise anyway, that inspires me. I'm like, man, they did this like awesome thing on video. It's like, I wonder if I could do that, or I wonder if I could like come up with something cooler. And I try, and sometimes I get there, sometimes I don't, but I love doing that. But so yeah, mostly it's Ryan. Some of it's loving Magic, and then lastly it's the getting to be creative and do cool things I wouldn't have the chance to otherwise. Also, I want to get internet famous. That used to be a goal of mine. I want to get internet famous. I'm gonna be internet famous. And then,
man, when I was in my 20s, yeah, what?
It stops. Yeah, I definitely started this in my 20s. Sure did.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. So one of the things you mentioned, I just wanted to piggyback on, like I was doing a podcast for a little while with Kristen and the Kristen Emily at twitter.com. And
Kristen.
we kind of stopped doing it just from a time standpoint, but like every couple of weeks we still like just have a call with each other, like a Discord call, just to like chat about like what we've been doing in game and like cards we've been playing, this and that. And like, you know, it's just really cool to be able to create something with someone you like, and, you know, just you get the bond over that, and it's super, super cool. So
They'll just like talk about Boros. It's just like,
huge.
Oh, Sunforger.deck. Oh, Gerard Swords.deck. Oh, dur.
Oh yeah, no, we talk about like deeply technical lines of play that like probably involve Sunforger, and it would be your personal nightmare.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess I wanted to just jump out there and say like the big reason I kind of started doing this is that I wanted to keep like some sort of like record for my kids, and that's kind of why like I do the hashtag MTG Dad moment at the beginning of every show, and that is like a huge part of like why I do this, and it's because it's like, okay, well, like what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about my family and Magic, right? Like those are the things, right? So it's kind of natural after that. And also like I'm in a very like technical role, like that's what my job is tech stuff.
Oh, I think you're in your family.
Yes, technically I'm the father. But no, it's my job is very technical, and so, but I've always been an extroverted person. If I'm the person in the room, like standing on the table singing or whatever, and like everybody's looking at me, like I like that, right? So like that piece of podcasting like specifically appeals to me, and I know like that's actually not the same for you, Zach, and I'm actually curious if it's like that for you, PJ. Like, would you consider yourself an extrovert, PJ, or is this something that's like, well, it's easy to do because I'm in my own room?
I am this really weird blend of like right on the introvert extrovert line. So like some days I'm a little more introverted, some days I'm a little more extroverted. It's like it's kind of I kind of do that on the introvert extrovert line. So but I was a musician growing up, so like I just like being on stage and like, you know, kind of performing and doing all that stuff, creating stuff, you know, creating a new. Zach talked about it like with creative outlets, like this is also a big creative outlet for me, so that's part of it.
Definitely.
I will say that like it's easier for me to receive information in the game on Magic Online while I'm sitting in my house. When you're at the shop and it's like kind of hot, a little crowded, someone's like probably bumping into you, you're chit-chatting with your buddies, I'm not super focused on like the game state.
Yeah.
And like my level of technical play just goes way down. So yeah.
So something I will say, you mentioned that, you know, I'm a little bit more on the introverted side, and I can be, but like one of the good things about doing a benefit. So listen up, people. This is a benefit of doing a podcast. It's a benefit. It's pushed my introvert my scale of introvert extrovert or whatever, to where I'm a little bit more on the line than I used to be. I enjoy doing these and knowing that people are gonna get to talk and kind of performing, telling my ridiculous jokes and whatnot. And it's helped me in life as well. And I think people who've been listening for the longest like have heard the difference in me and how I did. And so like, especially now with COVID, man, I'm starting to be like, maybe I am more extroverted than I thought.
I miss people.
Yeah, people.
Yeah. I'm getting a little stir crazy. It's been pretty rough. So,
all right, okay, so let's jump into a hard truth about being a content creator, and we've kind of brushed it a little bit, but I want to dive deep into it, which is content creation takes time, and it like
time is money,
I can tell you, yeah, very nice. Yes, and like Zach and I have talked about, we're like, well, should we do streaming and we have the podcast, and what about videos? And like you think about like all these different things that you could be creating because it is a creative outlet, and it's like, where would we find the time? Like it's for us, it's almost felt like you have to pick one, right? And it sounds like you kind of like it's had some experience with that as well, PJ, right? Like you said, you do the Commander replay stuff, but then also you have this podcast thing, but it's like, wow, it's a lot of time, right?
Yep.
So I thought it'd be interesting for us to tell the folks at home how much time we actually spend every week making content. And PJ, as our guest, I'll let you go first.
Sure. I'll be honest, since I went full time, I actually don't track it, but it's something near 40 hours. Like, I don't have loads and loads of extra time. Typically my Monday is like really long. I'll get out of bed about 9 o'clock, and if Veronica doesn't stop me, I'll probably work till like 8, 9. If she wasn't home, 10 o'clock. Like, I would just go like all day, because Monday kind of sets up the week. But like on the other hand, I might take like a pretty short Friday and just kind of take it easy a little bit. But
is that Veronica Ryan's daughter?
No. Oh yeah, I forgot. No, Veronica would be my girlfriend. Okay. Who I live with, and
who we've met actually.
Yeah. Oh, you did meet her. I forgot about that.
We were stuck in that airport for all those hours.
Oh yeah, coming back from GP Vegas. Now I remember.
Yeah, but so yeah, and I actually have some friends that are self-employed, and it's like when you're your own boss, like you kind of do just keep working, because it's like anytime you're not working is like money you're not making. It's
right, exactly. So like, I work on Saturdays a lot. I have to film a lot on Saturdays, or you're just like, you're trying to test something out late at night. Like, hey, does this card work with the way that I want it to? Does it like do the thing in this deck? And is that working? It's like, it's like I'm testing with a purpose. So I'm trying to, because like I hope to report on it the next day in a video or something. So, yeah, it's something near 40 hours, but you're always kind of like doing little things here and there. Before I went full time, while I was working at a full time job, I actually did track my hours, and it was like 25 hours a week to get like 3 videos out. And trying to find 20 to 25 hours a week when you're working 40 hours a week with like, I had like 10 hours of commuting time a week. It was bad. Yeah, it was really bad.
You were listening to a lot of podcasts then.
Oh yeah, I listened to podcasts, but like back then it would look something like I'd get up at 7, post the video, upload it and do all the stuff, get a thumbnail on there, then like run out the door, go to work, get home from work at like, I don't know, 6, and then try to get something filmed, edit between like 10 and midnight. And, you're getting to bed like 12:30, getting up at 7, trying to get the video done. It was exhausting.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Honestly, like I sometimes think like, what would it be like if we could do this show or content creation full time for me, right? Yeah. I'm like, oh man, I would be able to do like so much more, because there are some weeks where, when you've got the job, like you know what I'm talking about, like, and you're working like those extra hours because it's crunch time or whatever, and it's really hard to like make content on weeks like that. And yeah, I don't know. It's something interesting about that. But so Zach, what about you? Like, how many hours a week would you say you spend?
I don't really track it. It's a lot. So I kind of came up with a breakdown ish. We spend a couple hours recording. About when it's only edit audio, it takes me about 2 hours to edit. If it's video, we're looking at 4 to 6 hours of editing time. I spend an hour planning the episode with you, and then if I write the show notes, I spend an hour there probably total. And then there's all this other stuff that I can't like really track. It's like, well, I'm on Twitter doing this, trying to promote the podcast, or I'm doing graphic design for things like today, or whatever. And I definitely refer to it as my second job, but it's definitely the second job that I love. Like I wouldn't quit that job. But it is hard with I mean, it's a little less hard now that I'm working from home, since we all are now, but when I'd have to go into the office, and people are probably gonna be like, oh, you're a pansy, but I'd wake up about 9:45, roll into the office about 10:30, stay till 7, come home, eat, and then on nights where I'm working on stuff, I'd stay up, and I mean I used to always stay up until 2 a.m., but stay up until 2 a.m. working on stuff. And then Sundays were always super crunch day to get videos edited when we did that, when we could film together. But yeah, it's a lot of time. It's Ryan and I were talking about this, and it's definitely a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, it honestly, that's kind of where we're getting to, which is like it's not just about like how much time you spend. It's like it becomes part of you.
Right.
It's like, I mean, I think on a easy week where we don't spend a lot of time, I'm spending 8 hours outside of the stuff. And like Zach said, there's a lot of time in there that's pretty hard to quantify.
Yeah.
So really, and you do that week in and week out, and like you never miss a week, and you always, get the video out on time. And yeah, and part of this, like I'm the person on the team that like uploads our video and stuff, and that's one night. It's like, okay, Tuesday night is the night that I do that, and like once I'm done with the family stuff, it's like, okay, that's the thing I'm going to do for that night.
Yeah.
Right. And people don't think about it. That's not the day you record. That's not the day that you proof it to make sure it's okay. That's not the day that you edit it. It's the day that you upload it. And that's a real day too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like, and again, I don't want this to sound bad, because it is a labor of love. It's it's being a part of this community. It's doing something that you're passionate about. It's getting to have the extroverted time and getting to meet the people and hear the stories, and all of that stuff is amazing. But so let's talk about like that. This kind of transitions us into like what makes it worth it. And like Zach said, it's a second job, and to me, I say, well, it's my hobby, right? Like making content is my hobby. For PJ, it's your job.
It is my job.
Literally,
it is my job to make content.
Yeah. So I mean, I think our answers to this are going to be kind of different. So PJ, let's hear about it from you. Like what makes it like the best thing? Like, I mean, obviously you're very good at it. So
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, chat was over here talking about you having a broadcaster voice. And they're not wrong. They are not wrong in any fashion.
Sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really want someone to let me call a baseball game. I just want to call a baseball game. I'll call a Magic game if they'll let me like call some standard games or something. I'm absolutely on board for that. But a baseball game is like a side dream of mine. That would be so much fun.
Does Little League count?
As far as like why I do it, obviously it's my job. Like we kind of mentioned that, but I play a lot of Magic anyway. And like before I started the channel, I played a lot of Magic, and there's something rewarding about just like, well, if I'm going to play a lot of Magic anyway, it might as well be on video, and it might as well be like entertaining and all that kind of other stuff. Now, one of the kind of the opposite side to that is like doing something you love for a living does put like a burden on that thing. Like I have a burden to, try to make enough money each month and all that kind of stuff. And like, that's not always the most fun. Like, it's not just that I'm playing Magic. It's that like, I need to get videos that I can use for content that are usable. Like, I don't show a lot of blowouts on my channel. So if someone just goes like the thing on turn 6 and you don't have an answer, you're like, well, this game probably not getting posted.
That was an hour of my life that just disappeared.
Right. Like there's a finite amount of time that I can film during the day. And, especially if it's a long game, if it's like, ends up being a 2-hour game. And then like the worst of all things is like the audio didn't work when I was recording, or, the video didn't save, one of those like technical problems. That stuff sucks. That's a bad day at the Commander Replay offices. And, they don't happen too often, but in the last month or two, I've had a few more of those than I would have really liked. But yeah, it's just kind of like again, I talk about like the storytelling. I love telling these little stories. I like being involved in the community. It's cool to just like talk to other people, because like when I was playing by myself a lot, I didn't really have a lot of people to talk to about Magic, and sometimes you just want to talk about cards and stuff and decks and whatever. And like doing content has given me like an avenue to like, there's always someone I can talk to. I can just like jump in my Patreon Discord or something and be like, hey, free voice chat right now, and a few people join in and like, let's talk about some cards. Here we go. So
right, I mean that whole like having people that you can like talk to and learn about their lives and interact with them and stuff, like that is such an amazing benefit to being a content creator. It's like the reason to do it. It's so good.
Right. And I'll jump on that for a second. Just like there is a benefit in life to like having a big social web, just like knowing more people and being connected with a bunch of people. It is so much more helpful to be connected than to be isolated from everyone and everything. And just, I remember reading like Men's Health, which is like not the greatest publication ever, but in my 20s, I was reading this Men's Health article that like many guys, young guys, like they wouldn't know enough people to like go get a game of volleyball going. You know what I mean? Because you get out of school and then you're like trying to figure your life out. And like, you look at your list of like available friends, you're like, I feel like I used to know more people. Where'd they all go? And, being a content creator has kind of given me a means just to stay connected with people and like have people to talk to about this thing that I like doing. So that is a really cool thing about it.
Well, yeah, and there's real tangible benefits there, right? It's like there's people that care about you, right?
Yeah.
And like knowing that there's people that care about you, and you know, it's you return the benefit too, right? Like you care about those other people.
Yep.
Like that's very real, right? Like that makes you feel better, and that makes life easier.
Yeah,
like,
it does. It really does.
does.
Yeah, like, you know, I know like every action movie ever, like one man stands alone, like all that sort of stuff. Like, no, that's not helpful in real life. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? No, like make friends, like ask your friends for help. That stuff will only help you more. So, you know, just stay connected with people. And yeah, content creation is a great way to get connected with people.
Yeah. Like,
but what about you guys?
I definitely like feel that like some of my like best friends, you know, under Ryan, of course, obviously Ryan.
Oh wait, I get to be at the top. All right,
you're at the top.
Okay. Hey, I made it. Nobody knocked me off this pedestal.
Right. Max is coming for you. But you know, like it's cool to make those friends, I think, and I think it's also something like I definitely felt like that for a while. I was like, yeah, I don't know enough people to do a volleyball game, and maybe I don't, you know, in my city. But if all my friends from across the country or world or whatever got together, we could have two. We could have two volleyball games.
2 volleyball games, yeah, let's do it.
But you know, along those lines, what makes content creating worth it is the friendships, you know, I think, and just getting to do something awesome. Like, I don't know, just all of it to me feels worth it. Like all the sweat and labor that goes into it, like I think is just worth it for you know, being able to get the creative and get the friends and, you know, just know people and talk about things that you're into and learning about people's lives outside of Magic. Like, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that we kind of have hit on a little bit before in the episode, like PJU with Kristen and Zach with myself. If you go down this road of content creation, like if there's folks out there listening right now that are like, you know, this sounds pretty good. I want to give this a try. Man, you can you get to know another person like so deeply, like because when we talk about spending an hour planning an episode, right? Like that's pretty normal. But then there's this other time where you're still talking about the stuff that you did. You know, you're
you're just like screwing around and like having a good time. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Or you're going back and like looking at it like, okay, you know, what could we have done better here? Like retrospectively, and like, you know, it just becomes this shared language. And it's also interesting because like there's so much of Zach and I's like friendship that is like available for public consumption.
Right.
Yeah. Because it is just that, right? It's like Zach and I just like getting together and like trying to make each other laugh. Like that is the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
go ahead.
Oh, that's a point I want to make too about making each other laugh or whatever. Like, I'm at Magic. I'm not super good, but like, and do I know a lot about Magic? Well, I do know a lot, but not much compared to other people. But you know, I used to worry about that so much about not being able to, and then I just changed my modus operandi and was like, I'm going to make Ryan laugh, and I stopped worrying about the other stuff. I'm just like, I'm gonna make Ryan laugh, and then like I ended up getting better at the other stuff too. So like I think that was a cool unintended result of something I did.
Sure. Like I'll say that like I wasn't the best Magic player when I started. I'm still not the best Magic player.
Obviously
I feel like I know a lot about Commander now. I didn't know a lot about Commander when I started doing videos. Like I knew about the little thing that I do, which is like attack people mercilessly. But you know,
that's what Boris does.
Yeah, like I had to get more well-rounded as I started playing. So you know, you kind of just like figure it out as you go, and you know, you learn a little bit each day. And at some point, you look back and you're like, hey, I actually learned quite a bit. I kind of know what's going on a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to say, like, if there's folks out there that are considering, you know, this thing and you know, probably
life in content creation.
Yes, exactly. One of the truly special moments is like the first time you get to meet people that you have impacted, right? Yeah. Zach and I met some folks at GPLA.
That was insane. Like, I was waiting to get some cards signed or something, and this guy, and do you remember his name, Ryan? Please tell me you do. You don't? Okay. This guy came up to me and with his kids, he was like, "Hey, are you Zach from our previous endeavor?" And I was like, "Why, yes, I am."
The name which we do not speak.
I was like, "Am I in trouble?" And he was like, "No, we listened to your podcast. Me and my kids listened on the way to school and all this, and it was super sweet. Like, they're like, can you sign some cards?" And these are the first cards I'd ever signed. I was like, "Do you really want me to do that?" I mean, I will, but I don't know if you want that. He's like, yeah. And so I signed some stuff for him and his kids. And then I was like, if you're looking for Ryan, he's like over there. And they're like, "Oh, really?" And they're like, peace. Like, they didn't want to talk to me anymore. But that's not true. That's not true. But and then we saw him again in Vegas, and I slipped his kids some Leyline of Anticipations and told them to get their dad. But that was amazing, because he was talking about, like, he listens to this with his kids on the way to school and stuff. And that's one of the things, and I don't know if this is in the notes or not, but this is why I like that we're family friendly, right? Because anyone can listen to it. And I'd hate for some kids not to get to listen to something that, that they're into. I'd hate to deny children my voice on Magic by, using swear words or something. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Like, family friendly creation is in my opinion, like, where it's at. Sorry to derail you, Ryan.
No, you didn't derail me at all. But that kind of proves the point, though, which is, like, you're having this, like, positive impact on somebody's life, and you may never get to know it, right? But there are times when you meet the folks and you do get to explicitly know it, and it's very special. It's super rewarding, and it's just very special. The whole family friendly thing is it's a very, very valid point as well.
Yeah, I've got a few things on that. So, like, when I was working full time, I didn't care for my job. I wasn't in the best place. Like, I definitely had a lot of bad days, and I was listening to a lot of Saffron Olive at work just to, like, make it through the day. And, you have some real tough days. You're like, oh man. And you're just like, all right, if I put this video on, like, 32 rhinos or something like that, and you're like, you feel a little bit better. You know what I mean? And, when I started doing videos, it took a little while, but, some people have kind of said that to me. They're like, "Hey man, you really helped me through a tough time." And, like, that's the thing that really touches you. You're like, wow, I've got to make someone else's life a little bit better. And, now I'm kind of paying it forward. Like, Saffron Olive, has kind of brightened my days when they weren't so good. And now I'm able to do the same thing for someone else. And it feels really, really good to be able to do that. So,
yeah. And what's cool too is being able to, when, like, most content creators for at least Commander stuff are pretty accessible. And I remember I was listening to the Command Sphere one day, and I was having, like, a really bad day, and they just, like, I was just laughing so hard at work. And I remember messaging and being like, "Thank you for this." And it's like, and they responded, and, I ended up talking to them some, and, like, that was awesome, right? Like, I think it's cool that our community has, or you can interact with the people that you listen to. They're not like, special people up on a mountain.
Yeah.
I mean,
or an island. It could be an island too.
Yeah, they could be one of those blue players. Yeah. You brought up an interesting point, which is the family friendly thing. So I remember thinking about that a lot when I started, and you've got like 10 subscribers to your name. You're like, am I a family friendly channel or am I not? And, like, you're kind of thinking about it, like, you don't have the audience base yet, but, like, you should probably pick one and kind of stay with it. So you're, like, making this decision and you don't really know where you're going. My advice on that is to, like, do what's comfortable to you. I assume that many of you have seen the work that Pleasant Kenobi does. Like, he is not family friendly.
He's friggin' hysterical, though.
Yeah, he's hysterical. And, like, what I've realized just kind of thinking about it is, like, I can't do that. I'm not naturally that personality. Like, I don't swear a ton. Like, I swear a little bit, but, like,
I mean, you swear quite a lot at me last time we played, PJ.
I don't remember what happened. I'm sure.
I'm just joking.
No, but like, you know what I mean? I don't swear like excessively in my day-to-day life. So like, you know what I mean? Just kind of being your normal personality on camera. You know, don't try to be the super offensive guy if you're not the super offensive guy or girl. Or, you know, don't try to be the family friendly channel if you're not naturally like kind of family friendly. Like if you're a little bit edgy, just that's who you are inside, then like, you know, be an edgier channel. So just kind of like, you know, you have to dig deep and kind of figure out who you are as a person. But it was one of those weird decisions you have to make early before you like really have much of an audience. Like, what kind of channel am I?
Well,
yeah, it's something that you actually need to think about, and
Yep.
we talked about it a lot. And I mean, the other thing is, like you said, it's very natural for us, right? Because like Zach, you know, before all this crazy virus stuff, would like come over and like spend time with my kids and have dinner with us, and you know, he is part of my family, right? And you know, like I'm telling these anecdotes that I hope my kids listen to someday later in the future, and so it's very natural for us to be family friendly. There are times when I, you know, like I would like to, you know, use a curse word or something, because
sure.
sometimes you could add like that extra emphasis, but honestly, in the end for us, you know, but again, it's going to be a personal decision for like anybody out there that chooses to make content, right?
Right.
I think I have like kind of a unique perspective on that because I tend to be, I guess, a little bit edgier or whatever. Like in real life, I curse and all that, and you know, Ryan said, you know, we're a family friendly podcast. I was like, okay, I can do that. But I was always like trying to push the boundary to something a little vulgar. I kept pushing the boundary. And over time, like I changed my stance on that, and it changed me as a person too, I think. And I realized, you know, that there's so like meeting those kids, you know, I was like, this is why we're family friendly. Like I get it now, and I don't try to be edgy anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another benefit here if you're going to do the content creation thing, and that is you get to learn. And maybe some folks don't see that as a benefit. I myself have always considered myself like a lifelong learner. I love learning. I tell my kids, like, someday you're going to get to go to school, and it's going to be a privilege, and you're going to get to learn. And there are so many different things you can learn. And there are so many different things you have to learn when you go into the content creation stuff, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it never stops. Like it's amazing to me that it never stops. Like PJ, what are some of the things that you've learned? And I'm sure you could list like 50 different things.
All right, so let me lay the groundwork for you. I was a musician. I have a music degree. I am not a visual artist. I remember like one time at the midterm, I was failing middle school art. Do you know how hard it is to fail middle school art? Yeah, like
I made the duck blue because I've never seen a blue duck.
yeah, you know, like it's a really hard thing to do. I mean, eventually, you know, I got my grade up by the end of the year, but like I'm not good at visual arts. I had to learn how to do thumbnails, and like that's a part of being a content creator is you either need to know how to do a thumbnail or be able to pay someone who can do a good one for you. And you know, that was like a big thing that I had to learn. And you know, I figured out some tricks. I wouldn't say that I'm the best in the business. I would say that Jolt539 is probably the best in the business at thumbnails. And you know, he put out a video on it, and I kind of watched what he was doing, and I'm like, okay, this helps. I can do some of this.
I'm gonna go find that video.
Yeah,
that's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's actually a great video. We should. He's got like 1,400 videos. We were talking about consistency earlier. I don't think there's any creator that is more consistent than him. Maybe the Command Zone, but like he's like 5 videos a week every week for, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 years or some. Yeah. You're just
That's
like, what?
insane.
You're like, what? This guy's crazy. He's a machine. Just keeps the videos coming. Anyway, big shout out to him.
I'm reading chat here, and G3 from Lex Scott is like, we need to have Zach and Ryan come on the show and be edgy. I'll pop up my collar, you know, I'll wear my hat backwards.
I don't even know if I know how to do it. I'm just kind of me. That's who I am. But yeah, but like learning how to do thumbnails is a big thing. If you don't know video editing, learning how to edit videos is a whole thing. Learning how to talk into a microphone is a thing. Learning how to look into a camera is another skill set. And that's one that I'm still working on. I'm not like, I'm still a little awkward, like just like looking into the camera. And it's even weirder when I'm just like at the house, like trying to film something and I'm like talking into the thing. And like, you know, you're researching like, how do I look natural into a camera? And it's not like the easiest thing to do right away, and it takes practice. So like there's all these little skill sets that you need to learn to, kind of be in this game, in the content creation game. And there's a lot. I'm sure I still have more to learn myself. But what about you guys? What things have you had to pick up along the way?
I'll let you take this one, Zach, to start. Go for
all
it.
right. The biggest thing that I had to learn was how to be like up and how to do the radio person kind of voice and how to have the right mic etiquette and things like that. Yep. That was the steepest curve for me. Making sure all my stuff's on the right monitor so I can sort of at least point my face at the camera. That's a thing that I've been working on since COVID Dome started. But luckily for me, I've always been a pretty artistic person, and thankfully the graphic design and the editing came to me naturally for the most part. I've done a lot of editing in a bajillion different programs, but something I'll say about Premiere is you can always learn something in Premiere. There's always something new. Like I always think of an idea on that was something that I want to do, and I end up going down a rabbit hole of Google searching and trying to figure out how to do things in Premiere, and I've learned all sorts of stuff, and I do things that I never thought were possible with the video editing. But like I said, every week when I do edit videos, I learn something new, and I think that's because I'm the same way as Ryan. Like I constantly want to be learning something and keeping my mind sharp, well, semi-sharp, not dull, but yeah, like it's been cool. I've definitely learned. I've always been kind of a social media person, but I had to learn Twitter. Like that was a thing.
Yeah.
I'm still working on that one.
Like how to work Twitter, because I do that, and yeah, it's fun. Like you never know what you're going to end up learning. Like I had to learn OBS to do stuff like this, and I had to learn. I'm doing some audio stuff, and I had to learn how to do that. And it's just, I don't know, like that's one of my favorite parts is just learning something new. And the cool thing about our community is there are people that are willing to help you, right? There's a Discord, straight up devoted to that. I can't remember his name. He's Boss MTG, I think. He's a Command Zone editor.
Are you talking about Jake Boss?
Is it Jake Boss? Yeah. Like that dude knows so much about Premiere that I've spoken to him and asked for help before, and he's helped me out. And for any of these things, tips on how to get better, there are totally people that I mean, this is a whole thing about a whole episode about how to create content, right? Like we're accessible, and people are willing to help each other, and I love that.
Yeah.
So, some of the content that happened earlier in the creator stream on Friday night was just like getting OBS set up, and I was watching, I'm like, oh, this is good, I need some of this, like you know what I mean? Like, so part of the stream that we're doing, the YouTube people watching later aren't necessarily gonna see all this, but for those that tuned in Friday night, yeah, there was some really helpful stuff about like just getting some of the technical stuff set up. You're like, oh cool, yeah, because it can be a little daunting if you don't know what you're doing.
So sometimes you mute the audio and think you're going live, and then you don't. It's weird. It's hard.
Yeah.
That totally didn't happen, right?
No, I've never. I mean, that's
sitting at home will never know that.
No one. Now they will.
But yeah, okay. So I think that's kind of like a good way to move us on into the next bit here, which is we wanted to give folks tips for starting down the content creation road. We've kind of been doing it all episode, but there's like some specific like well thought out ones here, and maybe some not well thought out ones too.
Sure.
But also I specifically wanted to like at some point in here, I want to like know more about like doing YouTube only stuff, because we kind of like fell backwards into YouTube, right? Like we started as an audio podcast, and that's still our bread and butter. That's where most of our viewer listeners are. But we started doing video for a while. And we don't do it as much remotely because it just doesn't turn out as great. Like
sure.
you have a hard time like syncing stuff up, and I don't know. It's just not as there's my friendly family. Oh man. But so I think number one, you should decide on a format of the show. Yeah. And specifically, I mean like the number of people. Like that's the first bit, right? Like Is it 2? Is it 1? Is it 3? Those are probably where you want to start.
Yeah,
I think 4 would be pretty ambitious. There's benefits and downsides to all of them, right? Like if you're a 3-person show, somebody can get sick and you could still do an episode.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. If you're a 1-person show,
nope.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, PJ gets sick. No Commander replay this week.
Yeah. When I get sick, that's that. There's just no videos for a little while. Hopefully, I've got a few in the archives that I can dig out. But so yeah, I mean that's a great point. Just deciding like what is the format of your show. Like with Commander, obviously some people do like the 4-player gameplay. And, a big thing there is like you got to get 4 people in a room or on a webcam together all at the same time. Scheduling 4 people is really difficult week in and week out. Like
we had trouble getting the 3 of us together. And the 2 of us were supposed to be here already. Right? It's not easy.
It's not easy. But yeah, just figuring out what you want to do, just from a format perspective. And it's not that you need to know everything on day one. You can kind of you can get your first video out there and people will give you feedback. Like if they see potential in it, they'll throw little things at you like, hey, try to clean your audio up or do X, Y, or Z. You can listen to your comments and, people kind of will tell you what they want a little bit, but you also got to keep in mind that if they tell you to do something completely different than what you're doing, then you have to make some real tough decisions there. But
I heard Sheldon say something about that yesterday on one of the panels that I thought was interesting, and he was talking about paying attention to comments and stuff. And I think rando comments you should take into consideration, but if I left
also
if I were if I left a comment, right, we're sort of we're frenemies, and I'm coming at a perspective of actually knowing something, and that. Take comments from your friends or frenemies or whatever a little bit higher than just randos who are like, oh, you suck, right? Because I mean you don't.
And I mean when you're starting out, when you have 10, 15, 20 subscribers, whatever low number,
tell you.
Yeah, they'll tell you, but you probably also don't have that many trolls kind of bumping through your channels. You know what I mean? Like the people that are there are they're interested to check it out and kind of see something new. So you know what I mean? They're not there to just troll you. So right. Give it some consideration, but everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I can give a personal example of this. And it's a small thing, but you get it a lot, and if you're lucky, you get it a lot.
Yeah, here's that pedestal.
Yeah. So, for example, every week when we do the episode and I go back and proof it, I listen to when we mention community members, and I do this community spotlight thing where I tag them hey, we talked about you at this timestamp. So you can go there and you can we're wholly transparent. It's if we talked about you, we're going to let you know.
Yeah.
And it's a good, I don't know, I wish I knew when other people were talking about me. So it's kind of a reason that I do it. But the other bit there is that, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm hearing the kids. I apologize. But the point is somebody told me, they said, hey, on that community spotlight, if you put a link to the audio or the video, that would be really helpful for the people that are trying to go just listen to the one thing that you may have said about them. And I was like,
I've definitely done that. Definitely done that. Yeah. So, I'm what they say about me, I want to know.
And so that piece of feedback, I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think about doing that? And it was a perfect piece of feedback. And then now I do that every time now. So
I was about to ask, do we do that?
We do. We very much do.
Sweet.
You guys have the good fortune of being able to delegate work between the two of you. I don't get that. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna be me.
It's gonna be me.
It's gonna be. We're gonna get demonetized. So I had a really good tip. It was kind of piggybacking off the last topic we talked about, which was the learning things all the time. One of the things I did when I started my channel is that every video, and I was only doing one video a week at this point, so it wasn't every single day, but each video I tried to do one improvement. I wanted to improve one thing from video to video. So you don't have to learn everything all at once. It's just all right, the first one, I haven't even watched my first video in a long time. I'm sure going to just cringe fest if I do, but eventually I figured out that I needed to roll off the bass on my microphone a little bit, just cleaning up the audio a little bit. Okay, cool. Somewhere along the line, I figured out that I needed to start rendering in 1080. Cool. Next step. Eventually I figured out that I needed to put like a little overlay bar at the bottom just to cover up like my Windows icons, because I have MTGO in like a windowed mode. So, you know what I mean? Just like all these little steps, and just do it like video by video. You don't need like the craziest, highest production value video day one. Like, get something decent, do the best you can, but it doesn't need to be perfect on your first try.
Oh gosh, no. And actually, this is something that Zach and I talk about all the time, which is like, there is no way out but through. You can't, like, there are no shortcuts. Like, you just have to do it and learn it. And that's how it happens, right? Like Zach, tell the story about like how we did our first video, right? Like, I still think this is a great story.
The cards, or the first video, the first full length video,
the sleeve review.
Oh, so this is when Ryan and I think Veronica was with us. We were at the mothership, and we were like, oh, Ultimate Guard katana sleeves, we've heard those are good. Let's get them. And we were getting them, and I was like, man, I feel like we should like do like we could record a review video where you just set up the green screen, which Ryan already had for some reason, because we weren't doing video yet. I don't know why you had that, but I was like, we'll do it.
Shadow puppets are real, okay? And I don't appreciate this.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on blast about those puppets. I know they mean a lot to you.
For personal use.
Yeah. No, I think he was like, you were streaming or something, but I was like,
yeah, I wanted to try the streaming setup, and it was because Arena was coming out, and I was like, oh, this is like something that I could try. And streaming is really fun.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of time.
Oh, it does.
It's crazy, but it is fun. It's like we're doing it right now, and it's fun. And you see the folks over there talking, and it's crazy. But keep going. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so I was like, let's film it in front of the green screen in case I can maybe chroma key this somehow. I was like, I don't know if I can, but we'll find out. And then it's like, what are we gonna use for a camera? And I was like, man, we just got brand new iPhone XS's at the time. I was like, this thing will record 1080. I was like, let's do it. And so the kids went down for a nap. We set it up, and we just made a video. And we recorded it, and it wasn't perfect. I edited it on my like crappy. Oh, there's some edge, guys. Crappy little MacBook Pro, and
so edgy.
Yeah, so edgy. I'm an edgelord, guys. I did that, and I ended up being able to chroma key it, and I rendered it, and it was like great. I mean, it wasn't great. It was good. It had like a lot. There were my card sleeves. The chroma key caught, so you could see the weatherlight through my card sleeves, and
it's pretty cool actually.
But like, we just did it for fun, and then we did another full episode, and we had so many barriers we had to get through. I just remember I just kept banging my head on the wall, and I just kept banging my head on the wall until we finally got through. We learned about I don't know if this has come up over the weekend, but if you want to record your audio separately like we do through a Zoom recorder, and then use something to sync the audio, you need to make sure that you are using constant frame rate, not variable frame rate, when you're recording, because
that was a fun night. That was a really fun night.
And we didn't even figure it out. Like, I didn't figure it out until you guys left, but we finally figured out we figured out how to set the iPhone to record it better, but I ended up running it through Handbrake to make it constant frame rate, and I finally got the audio synced up, and it was just like, yes, like this worked. And then Ryan wasn't completely sold on even doing video yet, and we flew to LA because Ryan was like, that was hard, and Ryan was like, I don't know. And then we went to LA, and I kept it for a GP, and this was my first GP under being a content creator, and I was just like, Ryan, we should do it. Let's just do it. I was like, let's just do it every week, man. We can turn this around. Let's just do it. And Ryan kept being like, I don't know. And finally, on the way to the airport, I was like, Ryan, we should just do it. And Ryan's like, fine. We can just do it. We'll see what happens. Just leave me alone about it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean that's a slight paraphrase, but it's pretty accurate. And the thing is, like, being on video is way different than just being in front of a microphone.
The weird thing is, it never bothered me. I was never I was real anxious about being on the podcast, but dinner's ready.
I'll just go ahead and check my phone right now, make sure we're good on that.
I left mine in the other room, so I wouldn't be wanting to play with it. But yeah, Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll bring us back on track. That's a skill you can learn too when you're like kind of running the show. It's like, okay, when to bring it back.
And
to
we're
the thing.
back.
Oh, I remember.
All right, I've got a tip for you guys.
I was never bothered by being on video. I don't know why. Anyway, what's your tip, PJ? I'm ready.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Constructive feedback.
So one of the things, and I know, like I talked to you guys about this, and you guys took a different approach, but try to do as much as you can with what you have around. Like, I'm very fortunate in that I had a whole music life before this. So I had like nice microphones and stuff hanging around, like this guy right here, which is, I mean, this is from my music days. Like, I didn't purchase this when I started filming. And, you know, if you had, try and start with equipment that you have. Try not to spend like oodles of money right out of the gate, especially if you don't even know if like you're going to stay with it. Like,
definitely.
Yeah.
100%. I can tell you the very first thing that we ever bought for the show was 2 USB microphones. They were the
snowballs.
The snowballs.
Yep.
The Yeti snowballs. And
don't buy that microphone. I hate that microphone.
Yeah, but it's where we started, right?
Yeah.
And they were cheap. They were, and it was because I didn't have a microphone. I don't have a music background, and I was like, we need something, and you like definitely don't just like go in assuming you're gonna make it, because I think a lot of people start and then don't finish or don't keep going.
Yeah, it's not whether you're gonna make it or not because you're good. It's, are you gonna be able to be consistent and keep doing it, keep with it, right? If you don't quote unquote make it, if you don't get to that Josh Lee Kwai tier, you know, you can still do it, and as long as you love it, just, you know. Yeah. By
make it, I meant like keep making content.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about money. Or
he made it, man.
Okay, I was just making sure.
So oh god, what was I gonna say? It just escaped me. Oh dear God.
No, you know what? I'll jump in and save you.
I mean,
there you go.
So one thing that you should do if you're thinking about making a show is don't just go with the first name that you think of. Give it a lot of thought, and then like when you think you've thought about it enough, keep thinking about it.
Think about it more.
And then, yeah, exactly. Because like this podcast is almost called Commander On Ramp. This is
no, it was not. No, it was not.
The folks out there don't know. Audience, go try to register commanderonramp.com.
Nope.
You will not be able to. I paid for it. Right?
We're willing to sell it.
Owner of commanderonramp.com.
We'll sell it
right there.
I remember Ryan was really sold on Commander On Ramp, and
I imagined this like morning show thing where like car horns honking and like like it's like but it's also like
your commander drive to work, your daily drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan and Zack.
exactly. And I was sold on it, but yeah, Zack talked me off the ledge on that one, and thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
All right, so I got into a weird situation with the naming. The first 2 videos on my channel are replays on MTG. Like you can go back and like watch the game and kind of like fast forward through every step.
Okay. Yep.
I didn't start filming live until the 3rd game. And after the 3rd game, I'm like, well, that was cool. I like kind of like the live feel more because you're just like, you're more, just like more emotion. You're kind of thinking, you don't know what happens. You know what I mean? You're kind of like waiting for everything to happen still. So I went with the live thing, but I already named the channel Commander Replay. And like, I went through this like, well, do I change the name now? I'm like 2 videos in, like, is it too late? And, like realistically now I'm like, yeah, I could have changed the name and everything would have been fine. But, I'm like, Replay, it's fine. It works. It's good enough. I will say that I do like the fact that like the name Play is in my title, which is like, all right, it's gameplay. It makes sense. Like you kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing folks in the chat saying like, MTG Lexicon was the wrong choice for what our brand is. Like they're
sorry guys,
I'm being real. Like this is our 2nd shot at it too, right? Like we had a different thing before, and we spent months thinking about it, and I think we ended up saying like, oh well, we love the social aspect of Commander, and then like, oh, but it's also like an ice cream social, right? And I was like, well, that's great. I like ice cream. And like, that's kind of where we went. So I really do think, folks, if you're going to start something, like, don't let the lack of a name stop you from going forward. But also like sometimes like you have to put that thought away and the brainstorming away and come back to it like days later Like it really, like, to find the right thing, I think you just kind of have to like get lucky or fall into it somewhat.
Yeah. Here's some advice from my music life. So I took a bunch of music classes. They talked about music stuff. The 2 hardest things for a band to do are name the band and stay together. Those are the 2 hardest things in the music world.
That feels
and
right.
A lot of that applies to like content creation and podcasting as well. So
Yeah. So yeah, specifically like find a co-host too, right? Like if you're gonna do a 2-person show, like don't just find some person, right? Like practice it. And I know that sounds horrible, but like you have to, right? Like you have to like record the stuff, and maybe it never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
Like PJ, for example, your first video, was it the very first one you ever recorded?
It was, I think. I'm pretty sure it was.
For us, it definitely was not.
Yeah, I don't think I did the burner video, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Yes, I definitely recommend that. Film your first video, watch it. Like you're going to have 100 things you want to change. You can change, let's say maybe 20 of them given like time and resources, then redo it. And you know what I mean? Then you'll get something much closer to what you want. I just unloaded the first one. Here we go. We'll see what happens, and whatever. But
and like, for example, and we take that specific lesson to heart all the time. Like, for example, and Zach will back me up on this. Whenever we're gonna try to do something new, we like try like a 2-minute recording, whatever test, right? Mm-hmm. Like we've done it with everything, like from video to this mute button I have in front of me to anything, right, Zach?
I mean, to this right here, even,
Exactly.
We tested to make sure that the layout worked. We tested that we could stream it to the server we needed to. We always test everything. We've got a new camera that we want to use, or that I want to use for recording once we can do that again in our new studio, aka my apartment, Zach's medium-sized apartment.
Oh yeah, how many baths are we talking about? What kind of square footage are we looking at?
I've got two spa tubs, man. So if you need to come take a spa day, I'm renting that thing out for $50 a day.
Ooh, I don't know about that, but we'll see.
Oh, I'll take magic cards. But anyway, what were we talking about?
All right, so the next step, once you've got like the name is
things.
Oh, do you want to finish? Do you have some more on that?
Yeah, I was just like, we test every little thing that we have, right? Like with this new camera, we're going to test, make a test recording, and then I'm going to pull it into Premiere and make sure we can do all the things. Like we test to the nth degree just to make sure things will work. And that may sound a little anal retentive, but like it's worth it. It's worth it. If you don't,
things will not work. That's just what's going to happen.
And you don't always catch everything either. Like the tests don't always get it.
Yeah.
Yep, sometimes you still miss it.
How many light tests have we done? Like 1 million?
Problems will ensue.
We should probably get a light meter at this point.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's another thing. So once you've got the name figured out, register the domain. Like, just do it. It's not that expensive. And even if you don't ever, like, for example, right now, if folks go to commandersocial.com, we don't have a website there. It just redirects to our RSS feed, right?
Yeah.
And that's a choice, right? It's one of those things where it's like you need to have the domain name just so that you can,
mostly so someone doesn't get it.
Yeah,
or someone else doesn't grab it.
Exactly.
Pretty much, yeah.
And also like, go and like do a check also, like once you've come up with the name, like make sure there's not anybody out there that has had the name before or that currently has it.
Yep.
I know there's like 2 spike feeders, right?
Well, there's a guy locally. I think he's like spike feeder, and they're the spike feeders. Like it's pretty close. And he said he talked to him about it, but I was like, bro, I would not have made this conscious decision.
Yeah. From like a trademark standpoint, that'd be bad. That'd be bad.
So and again, that speaks to why it's so hard to come up with stuff, especially in like the Commander sphere, because like there are a lot of people making content about Commander because it's the best format. I mean, like sure. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say it that way. But I think another piece is like once you do that, even if you have no intention of ever using them, go register on all the things. Get a Gmail account, get an Instagram, get a Patreon. I think we had a Patreon forever before we used it, right?
Yeah, like that. Yeah. That's something. Like if I hear of like a new emerging like thing, it's like, what was it? We were like, I forgot what it was, but it was like, oh, this is a new thing the kids are into. We were going to pick up pho. That's one of our favorite things is pho. And Ryan's like, I hear the kids are into this. And I was like, really? And I was like, well. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, on my phone, signing up for a Commander social account because, I mean, it's not something we use, but just in case.
You never know, like, which direction the stuff is going to go. So that's stay like knowing what's happening in the social media world.
Do you know the other reason that I do it, Ryan, that I've never told you?
What's that?
I have a secret arch nemesis that may or may not try to register those and then like try to pretend to be us or me at least.
Oh, is this Zach from the alternate timeline?
Yes. How'd you know?
Okay.
He's got to face metal Zach?
Yeah. That the other Zach is clean shaven. That's how you know the difference.
Yeah. All right. So I've got a tip for you guys.
Go for it.
Audio quality. Audio quality is king. Now, getting good audio quality is like the worst thing. It's so much trial and error, and it's even worse if you have cheap equipment. So like, at some point, if you're going to be doing this for, a while, you're going to need to get decent gear. Not that you have to break the bank, but like good audio is more important than good video. Like you can be a little bit blurry on video and it's going to be okay if your audio feed is all right. Yeah. But getting good audio is difficult, requires time, patience, probably some money, and is a nightmare. And even me, who's like, for the most part, I don't really care what's on screen. Like, as long as I sound good, it's fine. And like, not every single one of my videos is like up to my own level of standard. I'm like, we had some noise. There's a little crackle in the microphone or something. We're getting clicks, pops, whatever else. And like, even as strict as I am about it, like I'm not perfect in all my videos because audio quality just is a headache to consistently be good at.
It's part of the reason that we love our silent partner, right?
Yeah,
he does a lot of that for us, and that's one of the things that I talked about learning before that I've learned so much, right? Like I know about like plosives and frickives and all these other things, right? And it's cool to learn about those, and like he'll be like, Ryan, get up on that microphone, like be right in front of it, do those things, and then like we would get together and he'd like show us like graphs of stuff and like, oh well, the low registers down here and like it's hard. It's really hard. He's an engineer and he like does a lot of stuff to our audio.
Yeah, okay. I'm definitely glad y'all had that figured out before I came on board. Because it sounded like I've heard stories and it's like it sounds like it was a lot of work.
Yeah. Here's a quick EQ tip for people. So like if you watch one of my videos, at the beginning there's a bunch of loud music and I'm doing like this big dramatic intro over it. And even though the music is loud, you can still hear my voice. And there's a trick that I do for that, which is I reduce the bass on my voice because you don't need that much bass on a microphone, especially on the voice. And especially with like a large diaphragm microphone like this one. If you're using like a little like headset thing, probably don't drop the bass because it's not picking up that much of it. But the other thing I do is I drop the treble on the music. And basically I'm carving little holes in the EQ, which allow my voice to still come through, even though the music is fairly loud for what's happening right there. And sure, you can just turn the music down also, but like I'm going for like a certain aesthetic of like, I kind of want the music to be like blaring a little bit, but I still need my voice to be clear. And it's because I've cut the low end on my voice and I've cut the high end on the music. And that allows both of them room to breathe from an EQ perspective. This is a music mixing trick. If you're like mixing a band, you'll do this like on every single instrument a lot. So, it's one of those little things that I kind of do in my channel.
That's a really good tip. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that's kind of the whole point, which is like, there's so much out there that you can learn. And you are 100% right. Like the good audio is very, very important. And like there's all kinds of stuff that goes into ours. Like there's like these pre-filters and post filters and like he exports it and like he's like, okay, yep, it's right in that like whatever range of dBs that it's supposed to be. And like he told us the other night, he's like, yep, I only clipped 12 Zach, what was the word?
Milli-dB?
No, it was like it's the samples. I only clipped 12 samples out of the whatever 9,600 per minute sample.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, right? Like there's crazy stuff there. So, but again, also I should say this to the folks out there. don't let that stop you from starting.
Right.
Because it sounds
that's
scary.
a more advanced. Yeah, that's a more advanced
yeah.
thing. You don't need that day one, but that's been like a really helpful thing for me, and that's my whole music background kind of coming into play.
Yeah, like these are all like mid to pro level tips. I think the number one tip on this would be or the big takeaway on this is being consistent, right?
Yeah.
Always figure out what your schedule is, what day of the week you want to come out, how often a week you want to come out, and then sticking to that just as hard as you can. Like,
it's really difficult too.
It is. It really is sometimes.
It is. I've had a lot of people come to me and be like, hey, do you want to come on our podcast? And I'm like, sure, but I don't want to be in your first episode. Like, do 4 or 5, do some number of them first, because there's going to be a million things that you need to work out, like getting your audio, like make sure everyone can hear each other, and just all these little technical things that like need to get ironed out first. And like, once you do that, like, sure, I'm totally happy to come on whoever's podcast.
Is that why it took you this long to come to our podcast? Because
no, this is literally just like us not like ever scheduling a thing, and just like making it happen. Like, we literally just needed to make it happen. But so yeah, and what I found is a lot of those people who asked, I'm like, okay, do 4 or 5 videos, and then I'll be happy to join your thing. They after like 2 or 3 of them, they're like, hey, we all decided we don't have enough time to do this every week. I'm like, oh, okay. And you know what I mean? Like, and I've heard that multiple times now. Like, it's not just been like one person. It's a lot, because you do have to figure out how much time you can commit each week. Is it going to be 5 hours? Is it going to be 10 hours? Is it going to be more than that? Is it, you can be 20, 25. And, if you have multiple people, then figuring out how you delegate work, and, probably not everyone can commit the same amount of time. And like, that's, rife for discussion and arguments and, whatever else. Yes. Thank you.
Ooh, it's a special guest.
I've been brought a fancy beverage.
All right.
Thank you, babe. Love you.
Okay, yeah. So the consistency thing is really important. We're seeing Infinity Tokens here in the chat also say the most important step is to make the decision to do it or to take the leap, and that's very true, right? If you don't do it, it doesn't happen. There's no way out but through. You have to do the learning. You have to put in the time. Luckily, we have an amazing community that's willing to help. We've talked to numerous people about getting stuff started, right? Like, just so many different people, and we've got a couple more things here to talk about. Next up is get a logo. With our first show, we kind of didn't really do that, and this is a pricey thing, and it doesn't have to come at the start, by the way, but it's really nice to have it. Like, I cannot tell you the number of times it's been so happy that we have this little guy right here, right? And I wanted to share with folks at home the process we went through, because it's a little different for everybody, I'm sure, but like, you can go out to like Fiverr or something like that and get something pretty quick. And that is what I would recommend doing, like, when you're starting out, right? Pick the name first, get the logo, and then you can rebrand the logo later. That's no big deal. We know lots of shows that have done that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right. But for our particular thing, we went to Logo Orbit. And that was just like, I went out and like tried to figure out like where to find, to get a logo and stuff. And I think we ended up paying like around $150, which, when we tell you how long it took to get onto the logo, it was a very good deal.
These people hate us.
It's the number one thing Logo Orbit doesn't want you to know. But so basically on April 29th of 2019, we started talking with them, and then the final email from them was June 14th. So all of May and half of June, like 6 weeks to do this thing. And we went back and forth a whole bunch of different times. We paid extra to get like the unlimited concepts so that you could, we're like, oh, we want to try this thing. We're not feeling it. And the other thing is, the more people that are involved, the longer it's going to take. And like, all 3 of us really needed to figure out like what we wanted. So, I'm really happy with that money spent, but again, it's not something I would have done on the first iteration or at the very start of a thing, but it's a very high priority, right? Like, if you get the good name and you figure out what you have and like, that's good. Next is logo, because then you can start doing the merch thing, and you can make like these like cool pins and stuff. You know, like you can get stuff figured out. So, yeah, I don't know. I give it some thought and really like. It takes a long time, is what I'm trying to say.
I think the logo is good for branding, but I don't think you don't need to have merch like right away. Merch is like, I think you need to have a little bit of a core audience before you really kind of delve into like merch. Same thing with a Patreon. Like I waited a very long time to start my Patreon, and I definitely could have started it sooner, but I wouldn't have been comfortable starting a Patreon like day one. Like, you know, I think you need to figure out what value you're bringing to people and kind of figure out what that is and make sure that you are bringing value to people and that they're enjoying it. Once you've got that down, then it's like, yeah, sure, get some merch, get a Patreon going, whatever else.
Yeah, you end up making the merch for the people. Like they
exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
you know,
you can talk to them about it and be like, hey, do you guys like this design? Like, would you wear this shirt? And they'll be like, no, that's not for me. Do something else. Okay, we can try something else. When I first started, this was my logo. This is just my Aurelia altar. This was done by Revelin's Light, altar artist that I love. But this was done, it must be at least 3 years ago now. And, you know, I just use this as my original logo because I had this lying around. And I actually didn't get a logo made until like January of this year. I finally hired an artist to like get an actual logo made. And I spent like $55 or something like that just on a freelance artist. So cheaper, but didn't get like all the, you know, fancy bells and whistles that you guys got. So, you know, it doesn't take a lot to get a logo. You know, you can just find some artists on Twitter or wherever.
There are free logo generators. I went and used them. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. I was like, you can just go out there and like, it takes like what kind of logo you're looking for and blah, blah, blah. And like, okay, it'll put some things with letters and like there are tools out there. And I would say start there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the logo just from like a branding perspective. It doesn't need to be day one, but fairly early on, you know, let's say by like, if you're doing one thing a week by video 10, you might want a logo just so people can kind of like visually recognize your brand and what you're doing. And it just helps with that. But I think again, with the merch, I'd hang out on the merch for a little while until, you know, you've really got like an audience that's into you and really likes what you're doing and that sort of stuff. But
I 100% agree with that too.
I have a couple of technical tips on the logo business. You know, make sure that you at least get a super high res image, a PNG of it. Get them to give you a list of the hex codes for the colors that they used, so you can match them, kind of like we've done with this video with our names. You know, they match the yellow and Commander. Also, make sure even if you don't have the software to use it, get a vector file because you may end up needing that later, because vector files are infinitely scalable.
Yeah, whenever we want to make like the Commander Social banner for a parade or whatever, we can do it.
Right? Oh, I don't know if I have that one. I have all the other stuff you guys said. I don't know if I have that one.
The vector one's important. So like for these hats are embroidered, and we've had a few things embroidered. You need that vector file to be able to. You have to go to another person on like Fiverr or something, and they'll do it for like $10. But they take that and then they like map out where all the strings need to go, so you could have the embroidery or make patches or things like that. Like all that stuff, I think is very important. And not that you use it right away to make things or whatever, but it's one of those like setting the stage for it, right? So when you're ready to, you have it.
Yeah, and did you say get the font too? Did you say that?
Yeah, get the font if you can. I don't think we did.
We didn't.
You know, getting the font I think is real important. I mean, it's not super important, but it'd be cool to match this font. You know, we're using a different font down here, but it's I would get that if you can get it.
Lesson learned, right? Like so that's real. Okay, okay, what are some other things we want to talk about?
Availability. I think you want to make sure that your content can be able to be gotten from anywhere that, you know, podcasts go. You know, the iTunes store, Overcast, sorry, Spotify, things like that. We use something called Libsyn, LIBSYN.com.
Short for Liberated Syndication.
I did not know that. I think Ryan got the idea to use it from Limited Resources, right?
Yeah, and this is an example of like our amazing community, right? I was like, hey, so if I'm gonna start a thing, like what should I do? And he's like, oh, Libsyn's fantastic, right?
Yeah,
like that's Marshall Sutcliffe, right? Like they're on like episode 520 of their podcast, right?
Yeah,
and it's a fantastic podcast.
Is that a pay site or no?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, really? Huh.
Oh, Libsyn? Yes.
Yeah,
I thought you meant
okay.
limited resources. I was like,
no,
they're free.
No.
No, Libsyn's it's like $20 a month.
Okay.
So
it's a little bit.
It's a little bit, but it's also like they do everything. So it's pretty nice. Actually, what do you do for yours, PJ? I'm curious.
We were using this website called Anchor, and when we started doing the podcast, we got into this whole thing of like, oh man, how do we host this podcast? Because like up to that point, everything I had done had been YouTube, so it's just another thing you need to learn. And I'm not like super experienced in like the podcast hosting, but we were using this website called Anchor. It put us on Spotify, and I think it put us on iTunes, but it was fine. It's a free site, so like free is cool.
Free is awesome.
Free is awesome. Yeah. But like, it was fine. Like if we were going to continue with the podcast on a regular basis, then I might look to do something a little bit better. But just starting out, if you're just trying to get going, Anchor's totally fine for the free stuff. So check that out if you like.
Okay. So I think I want to talk. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but so PJ, like for YouTube specifically, like what are some really good tips? Because we can't really speak to that very much. Yeah. Like we do get stuff out there, and it's been trials and tribulations for sure. And Zach could talk about some of that. But like, what tips do you have for folks that maybe want to go the YouTube route, not the podcast route?
Okay, so I mean, probably the biggest things, I hit it on a little bit already, is just audio quality. Like make sure that you are crisp and clear and audible. That is probably more important than like most other things, at least related to video quality. The other is thumbnail is super, super important. Like my thumbnails have been like largely from anywhere from like not great to like mediocre, and they're fine. I wish I could spend more time on them, and I can make some nice ones when I do spend a lot of time on them. That's kind of anyway. So thumbnail, super, super important. There's some channels right now that I think are doing really great content. And I think honestly, they just need better thumbnails. And like, these are channels that are larger than mine. So like they're having success, but I think they're also giving a little bit up by just kind of using a kind of bland thumbnail. So, make sure your thumbnail is really, really killer. Be very concise, be very quick. Like, the format that a lot of people use is they'll do that like little quick hit in the intro, the kind of like teaser intro thing. Then like they'll do their logo and then, get into the video quickly. I was doing a Patreon thing at the beginning of my videos, and I've switched it to the end now. And it has helped a little bit with video retention. Just like, when I was watching my YouTube graphs, 30% of my viewers would fall off in the first like 30 to 45 seconds. Like, if you're doing a Patreon thing at the beginning, like, people haven't even seen your content yet. You know what I mean? They're literally getting through the advertising, and like, I get it, like for me, it's a living. For many other people, it's a living, and like, you want them to know about it, but it's also like you're losing a chunk of people before they've ever actually seen the content. So just, I'm all about trying to get into things quickly. I filmed a video yesterday where like the intro was like 4.5 minutes, and I'm like, no, that's not going to work. I need to get this down to like, maybe 60 seconds, maybe a minute and a half is probably fine. But there's other bits there too, which I like when we put stuff in front of the like music in front of the videos or whatever. It's like, keep that to like 7 seconds, 10 seconds. Yeah. 5 to 10 seconds is all
10
you
max.
Yeah. 10 max. 10's probably even a little bit long. I talk over about a 10-second intro, and there's maybe about 2 seconds of like kind of silence towards the end of it. So just like for a time range but yeah, 10 seconds max, probably 5 if it's just plain intro, no talking or anything like that. Other than that, I mean, try to be articulate and concise about your points. If you need to script something out, script it out. If you are someone that can, Rudy's a great example of someone who just like talks very well without a script. Like, I don't think most people can do that. I can talk, but I'm not always super articulate when I don't have a script. So I at least need like an outline of what I'm talking about. And I noticed that, like, because I edit my videos, when I go back to edit them later, there's so much less work for me if I just worked off of an outline instead of just like freewheeling it and, trying to talk intelligently about a bunch of stuff. So,
well, and that kind of speaks to the point of like, the more stuff you do ahead of time, the less you have to do in post. Right. That's a really big deal.
Right.
It is. Right. It so much is. For real.
And other than that, those are kind of the big things of just like YouTube tricks. Other than that, it's just, create some sort of content that you think can provide value to people. Even if you don't know who those people are, as long as you think someone might gain something useful, helpful, think it's funny, think it's uplifting, think it's, just something they want to listen to in some way, shape, or form. Make sure you're providing some of that value. Again, you don't need to know exactly all of that stuff on day one, but be thinking about it. Be thinking about like, okay, what do I have to offer as a person, as a content creator that someone else doesn't necessarily have that I do?
Zach and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
We're like, what should the listeners get out of this episode?
Right.
What value? Like, what are we going to get them like excited about a deck? Is it going to be like information? Like, what is it? And like we talk about like every episode. Because if you have your listeners and your viewers constantly like in the back of your brain, like even like right now, like while we're recording this, I'm like, yeah, we've been going on for a really long time. We probably need to wrap it up. But like, and we actually have live viewers here, right?
Yeah.
So, but like, I'm thinking about that the entire time that I'm like doing things or talking during the show, and I think that's a really good place to be, and it kind of speaks to what you're talking about.
It is, and I'm glad that you have that internal clock in your head for when we're recording. You're like, Zach, simmer down on the antidotes, simmer down. And I'm like, okay, like rein it in.
Here's a trick. So like, I've done shows with people, and they'll, be like, hey, plug your stuff. And it'll be this like long-winded thing. And Neil deGrasse Tyson is someone who content I watch a lot of. And one of his things is that like when he's talking about physics stuff, they're like, no, people want these little sound bites. So just give them like a little sound bite. Just give them like, this is where my stuff is. I do blah in one sentence, and then move on. Like, don't dawdle on just something just like advertising your channel. Like, give them like, okay, I have an idea what they do. I might go check this out. But don't linger on that topic for a long period of time. Little sound bites.
I'm gonna go time your sound bite at the beginning later and let you know.
I mean, it was very concise, right?
Yeah,
it felt like DJ has practiced this.
Yeah, because it's something I'm thinking about as I'm doing it. I don't want to just like ramble on about like all this stuff. Sure, talk about the channel, talk about maybe one thing that's interesting, and then move on.
All right, so we have like just a couple more pieces of advice here that we're gonna hit for the folks at home, and then we're gonna kind of wrap this up. But one thing that has been kind of like I said, like my biggest takeaway is like, there's no way out but through. You have to do it, and it's gonna take a while to get good.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can kind of keep getting better over time. But content creation is like any other skill, right? It's like playing guitar. It's like playing a sport. The more time you spend doing it, the better you'll get. And there's not really any shortcuts that I've been able to find. Right. And I promise you I looked. I promise you I looked.
Yeah, man. I did a lot of research too before I started my channel. And just, you have to go through it. You have to learn a lot of these things for yourself.
Yeah.
Even people can tell you the stuff, but you still have to like figure out how it applies to like whatever technology you're using, and just whatever little dials you got to turn to get them just right. You just got to figure it out for yourself. So the biggest thing is you just got to do it. Like, you just got to get up and be like, I'm going to do this. And, I'm going to have to fix a bunch of things, and I'm going to have to like learn a bunch of stuff, and like, keep forcing yourself. Get your first video out. You're like, okay, I want to change 100 things. Get that second video out. All right, I only want to change like 95 things for the next one, and
making progress.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's something that we do with our videos. Well, we used to. We'd Ryan and I would proof them together.
Oh man, I miss that so much.
I do. It was great. But like, I'd always like watch and be like, oh, that's something I want to do better next time. That's something I want to do better next time. And just continually try to improve little by little.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's probably where we want to end it. So I will say, creating content is not easy. But it is
work. It is work.
It is.
It is rewarding work.
Yeah. It's a labor of love.
Yes.
It's worth it.
And, basically we wanted to say to folks out there in the audience land that are listening to this, do you have any questions for us? Because that's one of the things that we get to do as part of this community is help out folks that are kind of wanting to go down this path, right? And we are available for that, right? Our DMs are open. Hit us up, ask us questions. You won't be the first, and hopefully you won't be the last, right? Because as more people are creating content, right? Like, the better it gets for all of us. So we really do want to help folks out there that are wanting to take this leap. So
our DMs on Twitter are open.
Exactly. And then the last bit that I really wanted some feedback on, and this is one of those things you'll learn as you do the content creation thing too, is like ask for specific feedback, because even if you only get like one or two specific ones about the question you ask, it really can inform your decisions. And that is, did you like this episode? Right? We have not done a behind the scenes like content creator episode before, right? Was it interesting? We didn't talk about Magic very much, right?
No, we didn't.
Talk about playing Magic.
Yeah, right. So let us know what you thought about that as well. We are really interested. If this is interesting and more folks want more stuff like this, we'd be happy to do it, right? Because that's the thing, like PJ was talking about earlier, is like make content for people, right? Like they're gonna let you know what they want. Try to do it, right? I mean, you also need to make content for yourself, because you're not gonna gonna make it if you don't. But I don't know. I really always want that kind of feedback.
Yeah. I definitely have videos of like, this video's for me, and then like the next video, this video's for you guys. Like, I kind of just to keep it, fresh for myself, fresh for everyone else. So it's not like Boros every single day.
Yeah, when's that Sultai video coming out?
I've got a couple. My track record with Sultai is horrendous, but
love me some Sultai.
I don't know how you guys win with that stuff.
Yeah,
you're not trying hard enough, PJ.
All right, so I think that's probably going to do it for the actual audio part of the episode. We again want to give a huge shout out to the Mothership, store.mothershipatx.com, and again our links are social 10 in all caps for 10% off singles, and social ship in all caps for free shipping off of stuff $50 or more. Huge. And reminder about the historic Brawl tournament that's going to be playing on Arena. Donate and then maybe possibly win a gift card. Could be pretty sweet. Okay, so Zach, is there anything we need to do before we like shut down the recording and go over to chat and like let them ask questions?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, until next week.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Well, we'll do that. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, I want to say thank you to Austin for hosting the stream. I want to say thank you to you guys for having me on your show. Really appreciate it. We should do this again.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Seriously.
Absolutely. Let's do this again.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm telling you, when we can do it in person again, you just come on over. Like we'll make it happen.
It'll be awesome. Yeah, we'll be all in the same room.
But okay. So until next week, I'm Ryan.
I'm Zach. And this is...
And I'm PJ.
Yeah. And this is Commander Social.
Commander Social.